caster Billy.
My name is D0nkey, and we'll be your casters for today's Phageborn tournament at Infogamer 2019. To begin, we'll just mention the format in short. So we'll be playing Swiss 4 rounds with top 4 cards. We'll be playing Swiss, and top 4 will be elimination. The format is balance of power, which will be in which players will be banning one archetype. The opponent won't be able to play. So we'll get into the match real soon. We'll be sitting here playing Trump here. He's going to be on the Vestige faction with Saffron, the Relentless Giant, and we see him starting off with a real slow S here, and no energy cards, but Saffron isn't really known to use his energy very often, so we'll see how this goes. So Saffron here is going to be using more leadership focused deck. So leadership is one of the stats in Phageborn that allows players to increase the health of their avatar and empowers some cards, which we'll see a lot of in this match. So we'll see here his Trump's opponent starting out with a 1-2 with Swift, and Swift will allow it to be able to attack after moving, but Trump pretty efficiently cleans that up. Start with his opponent. He's going to be spawning two Auric Cadets from his ambush. He's probably going to go with some energy, because energy will be able to, with energy will be able to avatar which costs 3 energy, that allows his units to be pumped up some. Okay. The only actually viable play here is to play this 0-3 that will get empowered once his avatar attacks. So here we'll see probably going to bruise his avatar a bit. Or no, he's going to go for the core. Or is he? He's going to go for the core. So the goal of the game is to reduce the enemy's core to 0 and not the avatar.
Also, when the avatar is killed, the core takes 5 damage, and the avatar is subdued, so you can't really use any of your energy cards or your avatar for about 2 turns.
So we'll see him going super aggressive. So his opponent is playing him going super aggressive. He's from the Dragwraith faction, and they are known to be quite aggressive and have really good scaling engines. So we see here he's on a more mid-range deck with cards such as Mechanist range deck. Give his opponent some mages, and that will give him some opportunities to activate some powerful abilities that include his avatar killing some units. So Trump here is deciding to snare a unit to prevent it from attacking, and snare prevents the unit from attacking or moving for 1 full turn.
We see here he actually went for leadership instead of energy to use that log toss on the core.
Right, now it seems the player is trying to decide which attribute to raise.
And seems like it's going to be energy.
Well, I would rather go with leadership here, because leadership will activate some of his cards in his deck. And he went for energy. Getting higher energy will allow him to play multiple energy cards. So when we're talking about energy, it's important to note that Phageborn has 2 types of resources, as essence and energy. So essence is used to play units.
And energy is mostly used to activate cards or like spells, or to use the avatar's skills, which is an active spell that can be used as long as you have enough energy to both use your cards and your avatar skill.
So we see here Trump has some leadership scaling ability cards, which will cost him 3 energy, and these are going to be very, very potent in the later stages of the game. Right now he doesn't even have access to enough energy to use them, but with his leadership he's going to be able to use most of the cards in his deck. We see him going for
the curse
for a daughter and supplying his opponent with more cards, which normally isn't really the best idea, but here we have curse cards, and curse cards are cards that are energy cards, so your opponent can play them, but if they don't play them, they will have a passive effect that will keep on triggering at the start of each of their turns.
Yeah, as we can see, the card was already drawn, and a unit lost one of its attacks. So it's basically an endless cycle of effect, this curse.
Until he gets rid of them, and it's probably a good idea to get rid of them as fast as possible. And here we see him playing a very powerful combat librarian. Now, combat librarian has a very powerful ability. Whenever a local unit is destroyed in combat, the owner will get a scroll. That's an ability card for 2 energy that you can draw a card. So here he managed to clear 3 of his units, but since only one of them died in combat, because of a special attack, it dealt damage. It wasn't actually combat damage, so here he missed out on 2 scrolls, but still he has a scroll, combat note that will allow him to draw a card.
We see Trump here again. He has not much choice with his cards, actually, as we haven't really reached turn 6 for 6 essence. Also, really hasn't gone for that energy, so he can use his cards.
But right now Trump is in actually a good position, so he can freely use his overcharge, because the opponent's board isn't really that menacing, and so he can easily get rid of it with his avatar attack, with a couple of his Cove Clods that deal 1 damage. Mostly the combat librarian is the biggest threat here. His 2-3 minion isn't going to be much of a threat, especially next turn when 2 of the curses activate and he gets reduced to 0 power.
Where he's basically useless unless we're talking about Vestige, some of the cards that have actually acid, and even if they have 0 attack, you can still use them to attack units or core to apply caustic counters.
So we see him here pondering what play to make, and I think that Chrome Battlemaster here is a very good play, because it permanently increases the avatar's power by 1, which will make him really good at clearing most units. So he's going to be using his avatar to clear the combat librarian, and this in turn enables his toss log.
Also, this avatar cannot take more than 3 retaliation damage, which makes him also... There's another reason that makes him super good for clearing units.
It makes him extremely resilient, and here we see those 2 curses really punishing the player for not getting rid of them on time. So now he has a 0-3 that will never get that power back.
We see him having a lot of energy cards, a lot of spells here. These curses... And only 1 unit he can play, actually. Actually 2.
So right now, the best option he has is to actually go for an increased energy strat, just so he can start dumping those cards out.
Still choosing the attributes, but seems like it's going to be energy here.
So the 3 attributes in Phageborn that can be raised are leadership, energy, and overcharge. So why don't you tell us something about each one?
So we saw Trump before using overcharge already 2 times. So it's an attribute that allows you to draw one card from your deck in turn for taking 1 damage to your core. And each time you take an overcharge talent or attribute, you're going to take more and more damage to your core. It's going to have the same effect every turn, so you're just going to draw 1 card in turn for +1 damage every time you use it. Energy, on the other hand, is another resource that we have in Phageborn, which allows you to use these energy cards and skills from your avatars. We already mentioned that before. And the third one is leadership. Already explained that one. So it increases your HP level of your avatar and also allows you to use some of the cards that require a certain amount of leadership points.
So now we see Trump still not raising that energy because he doesn't feel the pressure to use his concentrated venom, which will apply acid on the enemy unit equal to his leadership level. It looks like he's not really in that much of a hurry. He's going to go for that 4 leadership to snare all local units. He doesn't feel the pressure, so he can go freely with his choice. And of course, his avatar can just clear. But since it has 0 power, he can't use his skill this turn.
So yeah, his skill basically every time the avatar takes damage, you can activate it to deal 2 damage to the enemy's core.
So you want to be. So most of the time you want to be taking that damage with your Saffron.
Which is especially good if the unit doesn't have a lot of health, but has a lot of attack, because you can't take more than 3 damage to your avatar.
So we see now that his opponent has very few options, and I don't know if you can hear it, but the crowd is getting pretty wild here. So don't mind them. Let's focus on the game. So we see here a challenge card, and the challenge is a very potent spell in the Dracarith arsenal because it makes an opponent attack one of your units, which can lead to some devastating combos. But we'll see if it gets to that point in this game.
We see him hovering here. Is going to be the right choice, or seems like it. There we go.
And it looks like he's going to go for an ambush that will activate at the end of his opponent's turn. So now we'll probably see energy play here from Trump in order to use that concentrated venom. So acid counters are a mechanic. It's a stacking counter that at the end of your turn it deals damage equal to the number of stack, equal to the stack number, and then the stack reduces by 1. So it's going to deal 4 damage in this case, since his leadership is 4. Then it's going to deal 3 damage, then 2, and then 1, and then it will fade away.
Also, these acid counters can be applied to everything in the game. So avatars, core, and units are all affected by this poison.
So here he's going to be killed instantly with that with those acid counters because 4 damage on 4 health. That's gonna get rid of that. Looks like Trump's gonna have another Battle Master, or he's pondering on his choices. A really good choice here would be to go for the Battle Master just in case, just so his power can scale up and start clearing out larger threats with his avatar, since he can't take more than 3 retaliation damage, but we still didn't see him use this trait to its full extent.
Also, the enemy here has an ambush.
So looks like Trump won't be using his avatar to clear the board, which is a safer play just in case if the opponent decides to start hitting back. Here we see the acid counter dealing with that 5-4, and the opponent he keeps on drawing those Auric Templars, which are actually very potent once they stay on the board and are able to attack. So they have a Juggernaut, which means that any excess damage they deal is dealt directly to the enemy core, which would be very good in this situation since Trump's board is filled with 2 health minions and that one pesky 4/4.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty good here.
But the game can still swing both ways because both players are still at a relatively high health total. So we'll see how this will fan out. Look like he's deciding to. Looks like. He's deciding to use his minions to clear the board instead of his avatar. Adding some more little units on the enemy side of the board. And he's looking to challenge someone. Using the challenge to get rid of one of those 1/2s.
And the last card he's got left is healing his avatar, but his avatar is already full health, so that won't be necessary.
It won't be necessary, but he might play it for tempo, but looks like he's still thinking he won't be doing that.
Switching over to Trump now. We see him hovering that overcharge yet again. He's going for it. At this point, he's taking 3 damage every time he, this turn, when he drew a card, he took 3 damage to his core. And, in turn, got that curse card again.
Right here, Trump has options to actually pressure the enemy avatar into getting close to being subdued, and as we said, avatars aren't actually killed; they are just subdued. But once they're subdued, the person that got his avatar subdued loses 5 life, and the opponent draws a card. So it's not that bad.
It doesn't get back in 2 turns, so you won't be able to use your energy cards or your avatar skill for about 2 turns. Which can be pretty brutal.
So it looks like Trump is going to go start clearing his units just so he can use his energy ability, his avatar skill,
and
for that easy free 2 damage. So now back to D0nkey.
The curse is back here, as we just saw. We see he also went for 3 overcharge. We had some crisis for cards. Yet again, taking 4 damage to the core. He's at pretty low HP right now.
So going for an early overcharge is good for giving your player more options, but it can cost them a lot since their stats are affected by this because he's not raising his leadership, he's not raising his energy, so things can get pretty bad for him. But here we see him using that challenge to overcome the snared status on his unit.
He took a lot of damage to his avatar right now. He could be in some danger. Oh, there we go. There goes the card. All right.
And he gets rid of that curse. Back at Trump, he's getting low on cards, and he is still at a decently high health, so he might go for an overcharge here just to expand his options.
Also, we see he didn't really go for energy quite that much because he didn't really need it in his deck.
This is because Saffron's deck is really based around low energy cost. His avatar skill costs 2, while most other costs 3. So he doesn't really have to invest in energy that much.
Once again, it clears up the board. Here we have a lot of damage, actually, to the core. Avatar gets 5 damage.
And this is the first avatar, subdued. And as we can see, Trump drew a card and D0nkey lost 5 life. And it looks like that this might be game 1 because D0nkey can't use energy cards right now since his avatar is subdued. That's another big downside. And his defenses are pretty lackluster right now. Just two drops. He drops to 1, hoping that
he went for overcharge yet again.
And it looks like with his 2 units, it'll be too little, too late. He's forced to heal his avatar because he needs to have a target, but it's pretty much over right now because Trump can just trade into his lonely unit in 1 zone and then just hit him for 4, ending the game.
Also, with Saffron, you can use your skill to hit the core no matter what, so your ability is always going to hit the core.
It's a concede from D0nkey, and right now we're going to go to game 2. With Zhutuk, and looks like D0nkey will
D0nkey's going with
remain
the same deck
with Tiberius.
yet again. So this faction actually has some pretty interesting traits as well. We saw Vestige. They have acid counters, and here we have something called Infest, which basically puts this
debuff.
The debuff, yeah, the enemy unit gets infested, and when it dies, it spawns a little voidling, a 1/1 voidling on your lane. So where the unit was killed, that's where the voidling is going to spawn. And also there are certain cards that can give your voidlings dash and empower them when they are spawned, when they are created. So it's a passive. It is unlike other mods. It cannot be stolen, and it's just a passive that stays there as long as there's that card is on the field.
So we saw that D0nkey has a really good opening hand, but so does Trump. His hand is very well suited to clearing out the early aggression that D0nkey will be putting out. The Oblivion also have a interesting mechanic of relocating units.
It can be really, really helpful sometimes because it's important for blockers, and if you wanna attack the enemy core and there's units in the way, or you wanna apply a certain certain ability to the whole lane locally, it's pretty important.
And here we can see some effects of the first player disadvantage. So since the first player has the advantage of having an extra mana advantage over the second player, they don't get to raise their stats or attack their first turn. So if D0nkey was going second, he could actually raise his energy and use it to play a turn 1 ambush that would give him 2 1/1 cadets. So now he's going to...
We see here Zhutug's skill. It costs, so the different skills cost different energy, but his skill in particular reduces the enemy unit's attack by 1, which can be pretty useful for also clearing with your avatar because you're not really taking any damage, and in the beginning it's pretty nice to just clear the board because these units are all low HP and pretty useful.
And it also allows his units to make much more profitable trades. Here we see a bunch of energy cards actually for D0nkey.
Yeah, just like last game.
So he might be going for overcharge just to get some more units.
Sadly, he got a card that costs 5 essence.
But the 5 essence card, is the Dull Reaver, is very good in combination with the Klexer Mechanist that spawns 0/1 tokens for your opponent, so that you can use the ability Reap on your unit, and Reap says that it has an effect if your unit destroys something during your turn. So
Also, just a note here. So when a card says it has an effect locally, it means that it's gonna happen where you're in the lane where your avatar is located, not where your units are located. So it's an important thing to keep in mind. Sometimes people mess up. They don't move their avatar, and their units spawn in the lane which they probably didn't want them to spawn. So
it's important to note that it depends on the source, what it means locally. So when a unit says locally, it's going to be in the zone where you play the unit, while abilities that say
Yes.
local will look at where your avatar is, because your avatar is basically the one using those abilities. Here we can see Trump really gathering up some defenses. We'll see if he'll decide to sacrifice the 0-1s into the 4-3, or if he's going to use them as blockers. And it looks like that he decided to use them as blockers. So once you play a unit in Phageborn, it can't attack the turn it's played. And once you play it in a zone, you're not locked to that zone. If a unit can, when a unit gets ready, so when it's ready to attack, it can also decide to move. And when it moves, it can't attack that turn. The only units that can are the units with the Swift mod.
also there's, as we can see, that 1/3 Voidling has a mod called Blink, which allows it to attack cross lane, and also it can attack the core, no matter if there are blockers or not on the enemy side.
Unfortunately for D0nkey, he drew a very high energy costed ability, which is normally very powerful, but this Trump start is surprisingly quite aggro heavy, but nothing that D0nkey won't be able to survive. He needs just one more turn to survive, and his Dadal Revo will be online, and that will allow him to
There's
get
solid
some
4 damage.
get a
in the
lot of
face.
value. Here we see him leaving one zone completely open, but since there are only 2 damage coming in that way, it's really not that big of a deal, since he's still at 28.
We see Trump here having those leadership cards again. It requires only 2 leadership, so you don't have to go the whole way to increase your leadership and to lose on other stats, or should I say attributes.
So when they have low leadership values, they're usually not that super high impactful of abilities, but as we can see here, it was very useful to deal 2 damage to that exhausted unit. And still, not a lot of damage coming in here from Trump, deciding to still use his units as blockers, just sending that 0-1 just to send a message. Unfortunately, once a unit attacks in Phageborn, it is exhausted and it is no longer a blocker, and players can attack through them. Now we're gonna see if D0nkey is gonna go for, he probably wants to go for that maximum energy, just so he can use that Primal Rage, which allows his avatar to have 2 additional free attacks. So an avatar can only attack once per turn and move once per turn, and unlike units, he doesn't have the restriction of not being able to attack after moving or move after attacking.
Also uses skill once every turn as well, if there's enough resource for it. He's hovering over here. We can see a lot of thinking going in through this turn.
Right now we can see, actually, there's a very strong combo that D0nkey can use here. Reap doesn't actually say when the unit attacks and destroys a unit, but if it destroys a unit during your turn. So the challenge forces an enemy unit to attack it, and it can actually trigger his Reap the turn he's played. And here we see him deciding to go with the 7-4 Templar. and Trump doesn't really have the proper tools to dispose of that 7/4 threat.
Also, the faction Dracarith, they're very well known for buffing their units by attacking with their avatar, and it can get pretty brutal. We can get some pretty high numbers there and receive a lot of damage to the face in a really short period of time.
Yeah, Dracarith units are very beefy when it comes to attacking, and their avatars aren't really afraid to go get into the fray with their units, which in turn inspires them to be better combatants. Here we can see that Trump probably accidentally used his attack instead of his ability, and a very unfortunate turn for Trump, but it's still not over.
At least he doesn't have a lot of energy cards there that he wouldn't be able to use when his avatar is subdued. It's a mistake, it happens. Sometimes you want to use your skill and instead you attack with your avatar. It's really important to look out for that.
Or maybe he was thinking that maybe his opponent has Messet in his hand, which is the legendary card we just see in draw. Messet is a legendary card that has an on-play effect that if an opponent or any avatar is at 3 health, he can target an avatar at 3 health and instantly subdue him. So now Trump is at least safe from that. Looks like he's still...
D0nkey's unit is getting pretty beefy over here.
Yeah, now looks like Trump is going to be in quite some trouble right now, because his hand is really good at dealing with a small board full of smaller minions, but these guys aren't exactly small. And since none of the units are exhausted, the only thing he can do here is play it for tempo. It looks like he didn't see the trait of his opponent's avatar that allows his units to gain Relentless, which unexhausts them at the end of the turn, allowing it to be blockers. So he's going to have to do some alternate routes to get rid of it. So one of the abilities of Oblivion is their vulnerability counters, which is similar in a way to acid counters, and it's a stacking. It can be stacked, and with every stack, the unit with the vulnerability will take 1 additional combat damage.
And it also applies to both avatars and units that attack the vulnerable target, the unit.
Looks like...
just like, I just want to mention, just like Vestige, you can apply acid counters to the enemy core. You can also apply vulnerability counters to the core. In certain decks, we can see a lot of those cards in Oblivion.
Here we see he's going to probably go with the tempo method. It'll be good not to play him locally, because then he would have to subdue his own avatar, and he doesn't really want that now. Now does he?
And that's 5 damage to the face. We see Trump is in a little bit of a trouble. His avatar was subdued. He's down to 13 HP.
Oh, but that is a really, really good top deck for Trump. Devour Reality will destroy all of his units, bringing Trump probably bringing Trump back into this game. Unfortunately, it will also drain his essence, so he won't be able to play any units. But he'll still have his avatar, which can start hitting his opponent, or he can start hitting the core. And at this point, I think it's better to hit his avatar just to pressure him into not being able to effectively clear the board.
And he's just moving his avatar to the other side. We see D0nkey's avatar at 1 HP. That's going to be some damage to the core pretty soon. And also, considering he has some energy cards, it's going to be pretty brutal for him.
But fortunately, he can draw his highest costed minions from his deck, and these are some very powerful minions. As we can see, he has a lot of avatar attack synergy, so we're probably gonna see either legendary cards here, or maybe he's going to go with smaller creatures just to set up a defense on both sides, or pressure on both sides. Lareth here would be a very powerful choice since it has Repel, meaning that Trump won't be able to get rid of it with some energy cards, but he's going to go with a couple of smaller creatures right now, just to be safe from any relocation shenanigans Trump may bring up now. Right now, Trump is sitting at a very powerful energy card at 10 energy that will allow him to steal one of his opponent's units.
But he hasn't really, he's gone for overcharge instead.
He can easily go for energy the next turn if it's necessary.
Once again, moving these 0-1 units to the other side to be able to block.
We're probably going to see the other legendary card here for D0nkey, which because Trump left those 0-1s alive, he's going to see why that was not really the greatest idea. It'll be a very powerful turn for D0nkey and probably even finish the game. We see here Trump going for a very valuable, if he's going to trade his 3 life on his avatar for a unit, or if he's going to clear a unit for free. And he's going for the Cannoneer.
Like it.
Trump does have a lot of defenses, but they're all going to be quickly dispensed of.
Because they're pretty low cost cards.
Right now we might be, so Orniseth has an ability that whenever your avatar destroys a unit, he readies himself so he can attack again. And now we're going to see the first time, so there it goes. And then he's going to use the Primal Rage, allowing his avatar to have an additional 2 attacks, readying Orniseth again, attacking again, and since he already moved, he can't actually go back and get rid of those other minions. So that is a bit of a misplay from him. He could have finished the game right here, right now, and right now Trump still has a chance to come back from this, but it doesn't seem likely with these powerful cards on D0nkey's side of the field.
Leading with 20 HP. D0nkey had a pretty good game.
Oh, but Trump can actually turn the tides with his mind control. If he goes for energy, he can get that big scary Orniseth on his side, and he's going to do exactly that.
Seems like he's going for it, yeah.
So in order for that to work, he's going to have to switch it over his avatar, and this is going to work very well for Trump because now he can even subdue D0nkey's avatar, and he won't be able to use Laruth the next turn. So this is actually going to be a close game, because if D0nkey puts on some low toughness minions, then low health minions, then Trump might actually steal this game. Again, it's a best of 3. They both have 3 decks, with 1 being banned. Now we have to see how he plans to get out of this one. He can either play Laruth, which will be it'll be a good defense, but other than being good defensively, it won't do much else.
There's another mind control also in Trump's arsenal.
Fortunately, Laruth has Repel, so it can't actually be mind controlled. see him here is still pondering whether to take energy, leadership, or overcharge. And he's going to go for overcharge because he needs those blockers. And looks like he found exactly two Templars to defend him from the coming onslaught. And what Trump can do in this position is actually reduce the power of his 4-3 in order for his avatar to be able to attack and get rid of one of them, and that will allow Orniseth to perform an additional attack.
Seems like he's going for that additional energy, though. He will still be able to only use the mind control or his avatar's skills, so...
He'll probably want to use the dominate wills to effectively turn the tides here, which he exactly will do. And now he has a Lareth of his own. So Trump right now is in a pretty good position. And his opponent D0nkey can't, even with Lareth on the field, he can't actually finish off Trump because Lareth will deal only 2 damage to his core, and Trump has blockers on all sides.
Both players now at really low core HP. Actually turned out to be a very, very interesting game.
Oh, but we see Primal Rage, which might actually give D0nkey the win here. And it looks like it will do just that. He will use that Primal Rage to attack his 1-1 and then his 2-7, which will be enough for Lareth to take out for the Trump score. And it looks like D0nkey takes game 2. This game looked really favored for both players at one point, and looks like D0nkey managed to take game 2. So we'll be going to game 3. Now we're going to see another, again, one more Saffron and Trump on control. D0nkey deciding to replace all of his cards.
See a lot of energy cards.
And all of these cards are very situational, so he probably doesn't even want them in his set. Acid Mist really good against aggro matchups, while not that good at control. So looks like Trump was first. Trump was the first player, which allows D0nkey to gain that stat advantage. We'll see if he'll go for energy so he can lay his
yeah, the only thing he can play is Spike Trap over here, which is an ambush that deals 2 damage to the next unit the enemy spawns on the field.
So yeah, he went for energy to probably to set his trap.
Putting that 1 damage into the core. And dropping the spike trap.
I would have probably went for Trump's avatar, just to give him a bit of pressure. We see
Pretty
Trump
high cost cards.
having a very, very heavy late game and very powerful late game.
He went for a point of leadership to be able to activate some of his cards.
We'll see if he'll go for any tempo play or he'll keep them to get rid of some of his minions. And
he knows there's a spike trap as well.
We see
D0nkey here taking that leadership.
And D0nkey, using that ability, since Trump damaged him, his skill was activated.
Still no unit spawn whatsoever.
Both players will, well, actually just Trump will go for a high energy count, while D0nkey will go for a very high leadership count, since he has a lot of scaling leadership cards. And
we see he still doesn't want to actually play a card because it's going to be instantly erased by the ambush. So he's waiting to get a little bit of a stronger unit to play, or?
Well, he wants to get rid of it at some point. So he's probably going to use the card that you see is the least likely to see play. And here we see him going for the enemy core, which is a good move since it won't allow Saffron to use his skill, since he wasn't actually damaged.
Going for another leadership horn here.
And really, Trump can't really expect to subdue Saffron because his
now D0nkey is pondering as why he can't use toss log. It's because when you attack the enemy avatar with your avatar, it doesn't take any damage, so it didn't activate his skill.
And here we're going to see Trump probably applying 2 vulnerability, which will make it so it takes 2 extra damage and clearing it with his avatar, probably also reducing its power first, so Shutuk takes only 1 damage from this exchange. A very valuable trade for Trump here.
And that's the end of his turn. Pretty straightforward.
Here we see an Infected Boltus, which is a very, very good card when you have Acid Mist, which he unfortunately mulliganed. And whenever an acid is applied to anything, the Infected Boltus will get +2 power, which means that if an Acid Mist hits a full board, the Boltus can get really out of control.
Acid Mist also affects all units in a lane, not just enemy units.
We see here that the trait Saffron has is the ability to actually attack his own units without taking retaliation damage, and the mushroom he has is whenever it's damaged, it's going to apply 2 acid to a local enemy unit.
Once again, I just want to mention that absolutely everything in the game can be affected by both acid counters and vulnerability counters.
Looks like Trump will just decide to leave that zone, whittle it down, so he can attack with something and hit it in one go. Deciding for the 4-3.
Sadly, he cannot use his skill because it only affects local units where your avatar is located, because it has to be in the lane you want to use it. He's all out of essence, nothing else he can really do. Has 1 energy card.
Here we see another powerful whenever damaged unit in Saffron deck. So the Saffron's deck is really geared towards his units being damaged. So we'll see if we go for that play here, and he will.
Also stacking those leadership points.
Very good play here for D0nkey. Having that 4-6 on the board is going to be really tough for Trump to deal with.
Sadly, I guess, his skill doesn't activate when he takes damage from his own units. So he couldn't really make that play here. He's already attacked with his avatar.
He's probably thinking whether to move his mushroom to the right, just so it can do some damage.
Nothing
and
else
put
he
some
can
acid.
really do over here. It's probably going to be the end of the turn, of course. Back over to Trump. Who we see still has 3 of his cards pretty high essence cards. Not a lot he can play this turn.
And these are all very powerful essence cards.
He's got the required 2 leadership points to play his units.
So we'll see if Trump will actually try to deal with the 4-6 because it can get out of control really fast. And
nice.
Looks like he drew that's a really good draw, since it will force his opponent to react to it.
We'll see if he's gonna go for it. Probably he will go for it.
And for people wondering what is a Vestige card doing in Trump's deck, which is he's Oblivion, one of the legendary cards in his deck actually transform into a random legendary card from their opponent's deck, and it costs 1 less.
Yeah, as we can see, there's a green number on the essence cost of the card, which means it has its cost reduced by 1. Using a skill to lower the attack of the enemy unit. Seems like he doesn't have enough damage here or enough essence to make another play, so we're back over to D0nkey.
He's coming close. He's coming too close to his very powerful 8th drop that scales caustic with his leadership level. And here we see him actually having a really good solution for Trump's legendary card. And looks like D0nkey here is at a really good position with a lot of beefy creatures, and Trump slowly losing a lot of his threats. Again, Trump has lots of options to get rid of low health minions, but in this case, dealing damage to his units is a really bad idea.
He has his legendary now available at 7 essence.
Right now, it'll probably have to be played really defensively, since the best that it can do right now is just trade into one of D0nkey's very powerful units.
And
but
he went for energy, which
if
allows him to use both his skill and his energy card this turn.
But if Trump manages to get rid of his 2 biggest threats, he'll be at a very good position. We can see that all of these low health minions, low essence minions are a very risky play, because that hammerhead is really going to hammer them.
So just checking out to see.
He's probably he wants to get rid of that.
And probably gonna go cold. Oh, both Infestor, which is gonna spawn 1/1 boiling on his lane, where the enemy unit was killed.
He's hoping to get as much of them. He's hoping to get as much as he can minions on the board, just to destroy it with just a lot of minions. Here we see a pretty decent, it's actually a very powerful draw from D0nkey. The Fulgus Salamander will has a last wish effect, which triggers when it dies, to deal 2 damage to all local units, which he can use to clear Trump's board and attack with even bigger hammerhead then.
He goes for overcharge.
He probably feels like he doesn't have enough options, although with the tools in his hand he can be a very big problem for Trump, even when he gets rid of his big minions. And it looks like he's not gonna go for the Salamander play, and instead he's going to let Trump get rid of some of his units.
And that left side's gonna be cleared completely next turn.
Again, a really good position for D0nkey, but one Devour Reality from Trump, and it'll be quite hard for D0nkey to rebuild that big board. Now Trump might be starting to use the overcharge here to fish for that big Devour Reality.
And he went for it.
Unfortunately, it's not. It didn't arrive yet, but at some point it will. Well, hopefully, for him. Right now that Hammerhead is a really big problem since he doesn't have enough damage to take it down. Unless he's willing to sacrifice his avatar. Because with Malefice dealing 2 damage and another one dealing another 2 damage, he still has only 4 damage to... And he's just gonna do the 2 damage for now, looks like.
Oh, he's all out of energy, but he still hasn't played any units.
And he's actually managed to get rid of the Hammerhead.
Yeah, having drawn that cold.
That only leaves the Sleeping Giant right now, but he's not really, he's not an escalating threat. It's gonna stay at 8 power for quite some time.
That's about the end of his turn.
And since he already attacked...
Yeah, have an attack already with his avatar, he's not able to do so again, sadly.
Here, D0nkey can go for some leadership play to increase his Malignant Thing even further. So if Malignant Thing hits Trump, it's gonna apply a lot of caustic, but fortunately only has 0 power. Here we have a lot of options for... D0nkey here has a lot of options. We'll see what's his next move here. He can either fill up the board, which might be dangerous, seeing that Trump is at 8 energy and could possibly go for a Devour Reality, which would be really bad for D0nkey. Or he might go for single big minions, single big units, excuse me.
Still pondering.
I would go for the Malignant Thing here because he has options to deal with Trump's board. Trump, of course, doesn't know that, but if that Malignant Thing starts getting in hits on the core, as we said, Caustic applies a stacking acid counts, which means that every hit will be exponentially more damage.
And dropping Sabina. Moving his avatar to the other side, or not.
He's deciding whether
almost
to
end
go.
of his turn. Not really much time left. Dropping this Pike Trap. And back over to Trump, who has a lot of high-cost
And
cards.
that's a really compelling argument to continue building up energy, because that mind control ability might come really handy, especially with his two seers, which will return the last energy card he plays to his hand. Here we can see him pondering whether to, what his next move will be. Unfortunately for Trump, his best option here is to play his Hazarin at 7 Essence, because he doesn't really have any other option. Because of his regular overcharge at the start, he's lacking energy right now. But then again, if he didn't overcharge, he wouldn't have drawn this Dominate Will.
Now he's just clearing up a little bit over here.
He'll probably even let the 8/4 Sleeping Giant hit his core, or he will allow his opponent to efficiently trade his Giant into his Hazarin.
He's going to drop that Klex Mine, which is going to deal 2 damage to the next enemy unit.
Here we're gonna see Sabina throw a pretty big chunk of acid on his lonely minion on the other side.
Minion.
So another big thing about the Vestige is their ability to affect non-local targets. So while other factions have a lot of things to affect local targets, Vestige are good at forcing their opponents to put themselves into really bad positions, and then they're going to capitalize on their bad positioning. Like we saw here, him snaring his Hazarin just so his Sabina can put some acid on him. And that Hazarin is having a really bad time right now.
Yeah, he's being he
cursed.
received 2 curses because he's the only enemy unit standing.
So he's being cursed, he's being
tied up.
He's being
snared.
tied up, he's gonna get some poison counters on him, some acid counters on him, unless Trump decides to get rid of that primary threat. And he does with Eradication Ray, just plain out destroying a unit. And he can use his Beholder of Echoes to get that card back, ready for to be used next turn. And that will be a very powerful turn for Trump.
There's no other option here right now.
Trump realized his mistake. He played the curse after the Eradicate. Now he got the curse instead of the Eradication Ray, which is really bad news for Trump,
because
while really good news for D0nkey. And looks like D0nkey has a really good situation here. His Sleeping Dart can exhaust the unit, allowing him to pass through. I mean, we can forgive players for doing such misplays because it is a new game. It isn't really released out yet. So they didn't really have that much time to practice the game before.
Yeah,
there's a lot of these minute interactions that you need to keep track of to play at full efficiency.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to get in tune with all the mechanics and everything in this game, because some mistakes can be pretty fatal, like subduing your own avatar and such. Watching for the order.
It looks like here the trap got rid of his ambusher. Now he's forced to use the Sleeping Giant to trade with the Hazarin, because if the Hazarin starts attacking his units, that's going to be a lot of value for Trump.
That's it. He gets rid of him.
Right now, with just 6 essence, he's not able to play his Malignant Thing. He probably shouldn't have played that that mushroom guy. I heard he's quite a fun guy.
Nice one.
So, yeah, not a lot of options here. Just clearing out his Trump's units. Looks like
Dropping the
he
log.
managed to attack it and got that 2 damage in. Now Trump would be in a really good position here if only he didn't get that second curse, but right now the curses are pretty useless in his hand, since Trump can... Well, now we have to wait for him to actually play correctly this time. So the best option here will be probably to dominate the 0-5 just in case, just so he doesn't get those curses back to his hand. Because if he plays the curses, then that his big 10 essence card won't be really that useful. And it looks like he
Dropping the curses
probably
back in.
won't repeat the same mistake as last time. Deciding not to play anything, but now the enemy avatar can actually get rid of Trump's avatar. So
And that's 5 damage to the
that's
core.
5 damage to Trump.
Also not
and-
being able to use his spell.
which is going to be very beneficial for D0nkey now with his malignant thing that's going to start applying a lot of acid to his core.
Here goes the avatar.
Monster Slayer, a very
Not
good
really-
option in
yeah, but
against control decks that go for big minions.
not really much to do right now, so
Now
back over to
is
Trump.
Trump is in some trouble right now.
Ooh, going for overcharge, dropping him under 10 HP.
He's going to have to put some blockers in front of that thing.
Sadly,
Sadly,
they're
these
not really.
aren't really efficient, but
Yeah.
Trump will have his avatar back next turn. And with 2 blockers, D0nkey won't have much options to get through them that easily. He'll probably want to go for leadership just to increase the power of
Pump
that
up
thing.
those. Yeah. Checking out,
Even though he has really powerful minions to play.
going for
That
overcharge.
cooler especially.
Concentrated venom.
He's in a position to actually play, and this is going to be an interesting play. He's
Oh,
going to attack
wow.
his own Salamander, getting rid of the 1-2, and this is well, actually game for D0nkey, because that caustic, it's gonna tick down, so it's not gonna deal any. Well, the thing won't deal damage right now. That 6 acid
6
damage
acid
is
counters
in
on the
total.
core.
Well, a lot is over 20 damage coming in for Trump.
I guess it's safe to say.
And it looks like D0nkey is going to take the first feature match of the game.
No more.
Because
no more.
there's no way for Trump to heal through all of that, and there is no way for Trump to get rid of 5 acid counters.
Seems like that that little mishap with the curse really costed him this game.
Yeah, if he didn't do that, he could have easily just eradicated the malignant thing and be in a really good position now, but such are the ways of card games. Sometimes the smallest mistake can cost you the whole game. See here,
Yeah.
Trump realizing what just happened, and he probably knows that there is no way for him to come back from this.
Yeah, because next turn the acid counters are gonna finish him up, and that's gonna be another game for D0nkey.
Yeah, here we can see how powerful the Beholder is, getting back that dominate will, but again, that little mishap really did cost a lot for Trump.
Having
yeah,
3
now
core
all,
HP
all
and 5
D0nkey has
acid
to do
counters.
really is just end the turn, and that'll be that
Yeah.
for the first match. But since we're playing Swiss, it's not all over for Trump because we has 3 more rounds to he can still get back for top 4, and that's it. That's game 1, and
That's
congratulations to D0nkey for this impressive victory. This game was quite gone either way.